People who say HR is just another department that doesn't have any value. How do you respond to that? They weren't motivated. People were depressed. We're not selling products at the end of the day. It's always to do with their life and their struggles. My challenge to the HR community is, are we truly understanding the individuals working in our workplace? We have so many problems, but are we truly understanding the people before we address those issues and those challenges? You have to. You simply have to make an effort to understand people. It's really moving up and down and activating this chest part, like it's a gorilla, But what do most privileged people do when they have this knowledge? They just sit on it. They do. There's no way you can put your ideas out there without working on yourself. How would you take the next step when you are faced with adversity?
You started your career in marketing and you moved towards ecosystem building. You moved towards motivation in teams and also underserved communities. What led you to do this change and how is it consistent? What's consistent between those two worlds?
I started with hospitality. I'm actually a hotelier. That's how I started my career. I went to going into that sector. It's interesting because my mom has been very supportive. Even back then, I was supposed to do law and economics and decided not to because I think at that time, hospitality is not as sexy as it is now. I always wondered, why did I do hospitality? I loved it. I love cooking. My late grandmother taught me a lot about cooking and the discipline in the kitchen and loving your heritage. Me starting in brand and marketing, that's correct. I started in sales in the FMCG and I was brought into brand and marketing. And I think what I love most about brand and marketing is insights, consumer insights. And that's a part of brand and marketing, which I believe not many people dive deep into. They go into the sexy things such as advertising and strategy, which is all critical. But I think it's really deeply knowing your consumers is what I fell in love with. And we would have sessions, we would call them visits, right? In-house visits where we would immerse ourselves with the people we sell products to. And a lot of the products that we were launching were to do with the mess. And mess would mean in Malaysia B40 or M40 communities. And you would really need to understand them. So I love seeing their way of life. And that's when, let's just fast forward going into business, which is Yellow Tree Malaysia. And why did we start with brand and marketing is because that's my forte. And I knew a lot about it. It was COVID that pushed me into business. I had great friends who said, why don't you start a business? So I decided to do that. Why? Because there was a need, because a lot of businesses suffered, especially the lower income group. And I thought, hey, if I started a business, how about helping them first? And usually it's brand and marketing. That's how they're going to get sales. And the intention was there, but it wasn't planned, for Yellow Tree Malaysia to be this social enterprise or really like, let's do sustainability. It was never planned. We started off that way. And right now we serve 3 pillars of communities, women, refugees, as well as indigenous communities, because back then they were doing a lot of food sales to survive. So we would be online, we would help women communities market themselves, do personal branding and so on, packaging. And eventually I had to also survive. So 70% of the work that we do is to serve corporations, MSMEs with corporate knowledge, I would say brand and marketing knowledge. And to link to what you were asking before, Matty, how did we all get into human motivation? It was really seeing the wave of people evolving after COVID. We would walk into rooms, even Zoom rooms or physical rooms. And no matter what kind of knowledge we were sharing, any workshops, brand and marketing workshops, we would actually see people really down, their energy low. They weren't motivated. People were depressed. And I'm an energy person. We call it kinesthetics in NLP, for example. And I would feel that. And I was also going through my own journey of going through COVID. I think we all were. And I applied a lot of modalities, which helped me a lot. That's when we said, hey, how about starting the journey on human motivation and helping others along with it, and not just doing theoretical classes, which people can nowadays learn online in books. How about helping them first so that they can also be better individuals when it comes to other subjects? That's how the journey of human motivation worked. And we also see the need for underserved communities to have access to that knowledge because it's expensive knowledge. A lot of these modalities are expensive. Coaching is expensive. Mentorship is expensive because, from my point of view, it's for the privileged.
I love it. I'm wondering, what are the skills or insights you had in brand and marketing, and what made you strong in brand and marketing? What is easily transferable to human motivation? And because the podcast is for HR folks, right?
Yeah.
And so they are battling with this. What can we learn from the marketing in you, who was since then moved to human motivation? And also, if you want to talk about NLP and other methodologies you use in that journey of human motivation.
We're not selling products at the end of the day. Many people who do read up in this area will always know that there's always an emotion that you need to address to sell any product. And when you walk into a room and when you do insights is basically going into, from an anthropological point of view, it is doing field work, immersing yourself in communities or immersing yourselves with your consumers. What I really truly learned from that is to connect. Are we genuinely connecting with people? When we say hello, when we walk into their house, when we learn about why they love a cereal, why do they love a bottle of water? What is the motivation behind that? And almost always, it's always to do with their life and their struggles. What is it that's difficult to deal with every day? What are the struggles they have with their families, themselves, the world around them? I learned that so long ago, even before becoming a consultant and trainer. And I was like, wow, these are really deep insights. Only then, when you know those insights, are you able to truly produce products that are of value? You mentioned HR. My challenge to the HR community as well is, are we truly understanding the individuals working in our workplace? And I know people would just say, oh, you got to be mad. I've got 5,000 people working, 3,000 work. How do I get to know everybody? You have to. You simply have to make an effort to understand people. And the only way to do that is through connection, either immersing yourself in groups, getting to know people deeply, to truly understand how to evolve the company in a positive direction. That is the powerful insight that I have from brand and marketing, for HR people and individuals and professionals to take back and say, hang on, we have so many problems, but are we truly understanding the people before we address those issues and those challenges?
When you were working in consumer insights, you were taking a sample. Would you recommend the same thing for HR people, like taking a little group? When you talked about 3,000, 5,000, even if you take 200 or 300, I think there's a first moment where you get to know people the first time you meet them. So it maybe 15, 20 minutes with everyone is possible when you have 300 people in your organization. But the keeping the pulse on 300 is a different story. How do you do this as a consumer insight person? Because I saw the brand Nestlé, so huge market, a huge amount of people, and you can't meet them all. What can we apply from your work at Nestlé and other big brands who have massive population to take care of?
The wonderful thing about being in an FMCG is you have a huge number of team members who come on board to serve consumers. So if you were taking care of a brand, you would have your agencies, you would have external agencies, and of course your support system. So in this case, I love the consumer insights team. I was always with them, and they would be the ones to design this approach with me. They would be my consultant as a brand manager. They would consult me because in terms of what do I need from them? First, it's understanding people. And you do need to have a certain number of people to research. Like you said, is it 200 out of 5,000? So that you would have data that is both either qualitative or quantitative. That's purely mathematics. That's people can talk about maths until the cows come down. You take your sample size. I think where we should look at is sample size. Who do we want to know? It's too surface if we say, oh, let's just take a sample size of 200 or 300 without really asking who do we want to truly understand. If we take a look at an organization and all the different departments, we also need to understand who do we want to get. Is it those who are working on the factory floor? Are we looking at C-suite? Are we looking at mid-level managers? First, it's identifying the levels or the hierarchy of people whom we want to understand. That's similar to B40s or M40s or T20s, right? It's identifying which category of people do we want to address. So that's the first one. And the second one is what do you want to learn, actually? We have to ask ourselves, what is it that we want to learn from them so that we can address a challenge? In this case, for products, if it's cereal, we want people to consume healthier products, cereal products, and they're not used to this. They're used to eating products that have less nutritional value, for example. So the issue is, how do we convince them that this is just as tasty and it has nutrition to give value to your life? Then you would have to say, oh, okay, so what's the issue? What's the HR issue that we want to address? And then when we take a look at the level of people we want to talk to, or at least go in and learn more from, we have an idea on what questions to ask. What do we want to learn? How do we want to connect so that they will tell us, or at least reveal to us, the challenges that they face, and so that we can sell a product? So in this case, if it's a problem, there will be a direction that HR can take. That's one. So you have the hierarchy. It's understanding what are the issues that you want to address. The other very interesting thing, which I just want to throw in, is because we're such a global and so dynamic. Our world today is so dynamic, full of different types of cultures and people. It's important to understand these dynamics. I don't think people take this into consideration. We always lump everything in one pot. So within that 200 people, we've already categorized them. We already know the issues. Do we put everyone from Asia in that group? Do we put everyone from Europe in that group? From Africa, wherever, APAC? Do we? So that we can understand a little bit more about the dynamics? Yeah, maybe. Or do we want to segregate them to first understand the cultural implications of the issues you want to address? One of the things that I learned when you go into these focus groups, that's what we call them, not everyone's going to be very open. And in order to be open, you need some form of similarities. Most of the time, not always, it's cultural, right? If we're from the same community, if we have similarities, same hobbies, eat the same thing, similar things, we would highly have better rapport and we would be more willing to share information versus having so many different people in that focus group. I think it's also having a cultural lens to look through when you do those immersions. Those are the three things that I would look into before putting those 200 people together.
Got it. Something you said at the very beginning is you had an entire team thinking about this. If you put it in the HR context, you're not the only, even if you're the only HR in the company, you still have all the people managers, the management team, and the people themselves who can be participating into that effort if you manage to get the energies aligned on the project you have. I thought it was very interesting. Okay, cool. Do you work with HR at the moment on your projects?
Yes, they're probably the first point of contact when it comes to getting consultancy projects or training projects. They're definitely, or we call them learning and development professionals.
Okay, interesting. The one thing that I wanted to ask you, and I think that was my passion for many years, is you have a company strategy and a brand. So you have a positioning, let's say, of we're going to be this thing. And then you want every person in the company to work towards that strategy goal or that brand manifestation, let's say. How do you go from an idea of we want to be this to everyone in the company is rowing into the same direction, delivering that brand, manifesting this vision? How do you do it? I'm imagining that's part of what you do, knowing that you're on both topic of marketing and HR or organizational development.
I love that question because I will answer it and tell you that it is really trial and error. However, having said that, you do have to know your values. You really have to know yourself and the people you want to serve. Through those values, you will figure out a roadmap on how you want things done, right? So we have companies all over the world who have a way of doing things, whether it is aggressively or empathetically, or everyone has a style. I just want to make it simple. I like to make things simple. Every brand, every company has a certain style of doing things. Will it evolve? Absolutely, but not like in a year's time. It could evolve within 3 to 5 years. Once you know your value systems, you know your style. What happens is you have to recruit. This is interesting because I would say that we have the luxury of recruiting the people we want to, because I made a conscious choice to say, I want to take time to recruit the right associates and project partners so that when we go and row towards that direction, it is less, I would say, rocky. Time is something many businesses don't have the luxury of doing. I need to hire, I need to get this done, that's it. really understanding people again. It's so trite, but it's true. Recruiting the right people with the right energy. So again, I'll go back to my kinesthetic ways. I'm very energy oriented. When I meet people, like such as yourself, it was like this vibe. Our first encounter was on video call. It's to see how they react to you. Is there this closeness? Is there possibility? The question is like when we recruit, when we see that human being in front of us, do we see possibility? Do we feel the same energy? That's how we get people on board. It's through that. I really believe that almost everyone has good intention to want to make the world a better place. It's just a matter of, is it the right time for them? Do they have the right capacity to row towards where Yellow Tree wants to go to? Everyone has the intention, but are you fit right now for that journey? And this is where trial and error comes in. So sometimes you might have the right people on board, and at times you might not. People fall off, people stay, and then they rock the boat. And that's what you have to deal with. And how we deal with it is we actually can see that happen, or when it happens, those, I think that connection and the people who used to come on board are no longer able to serve that vision, they will drop off. They will either drop off or we will amicably say goodbye. It's all about possibilities and seeing potential in people and getting the right energy on board. When you talk about brands, Yellow Tree, if you see yellow, yes, the tree, the community, it has a certain type of energy. If you go to our website, if you go to our Instagram, it has a type of vibe that must connect with the individuals who want to work with us. People will challenge is like, how do you do that for a company? There are ways, and it takes time.
Let's say that you can recruit some level of 100% fit and then some less than 100%. How do you little by little manifest this style and these values across the organization when we're not 100% aligned? None of us, I mean, unless you're the owner and you deliver exactly what you want, but you always need to make compromises, right? There's always a balance between different interests, the interest of your client, the interest of the shareholder, interest of the provider. Like it's never 100%. How do you keep that 100% vision alive? You stay true to it while it's not fully implemented. And just going back to the two hats you have. You have three with the hotelier, and actually I should go back to that, see how it influences your work today. But if you keep only the two hats of marketing and human motivation, how do you do that on a day-to-day basis? And also it needs, even with people who are aligned, I was talking about it with one of my team members today, even when you think you're aligned, sometimes you're not, because your word for love means different things than it means to me, even if we use the same word. And sometimes we don't even use the same words. How do you maintain that calibration and that alignment and always tending to come back to this vision we have? And every day we kind of go back to our polarities and then we try to go back. How is this working in your work? And it doesn't have to be at Yellow Tree, right? It can be with your clients and what you see working.
Oh, yes. I love that question because, again, as corny as it may sound, it's actually having conversations. Actually, just recently, and we're continuously bringing people on board as associates or partners where they're so excited about the work that we do. And I'm like, there's always space. And we have projects that are coming into next year. And the more, the merrier. That's our vibe. The first thing I always tell them, and they took a look at the project and they were like, I don't think I have the skills to do this. I'm not sure if we can. And I tell them, look, after meeting you, so this is the energy and the vibe, I do believe that this is something, that you'll be passionate about and you can do. So it's possibility. I see possibilities with you as an individual. And then I will ask them to send over their profile, etc. And the conversation that we have and must have is that this is our strategy. And let's go back to the technical part of business, which is strategy. This is our goal. Now, how about your strategy? What do you want in life? And I think we don't have these conversations enough with people. I do understand the challenge of managing 5,000 people to have these conversations. But look, do we really know where they want to navigate in life? I think today it's more important than ever to understand where do people want to go, whether it is retiring by 30 or traveling all their lives. These are real issues instead of saying, they're just lazy because they want to retire at 30. No, these are the things I want. And this is reality. Going back to this example, these individuals want to work in the food sector and heritage sector. They want to work in nutrition. They love meeting people in Asia and they want to move here one day. So these are already indications of where they want to head in life. And so I take their strategy, look at ours, like, now, is that a fit? Is that a fit? It looks like quite a fit. I will also address like you want to be here and this project will be here and you will be discovering heritage, etc. So I think that's a big tick. And then the next thing is, of course, skills. Do they have the skills for it, etc.? That's common. And then they can come on board. And your question is also interesting where you say, where do you align when you come in or during the project or towards the end when you want to let people go or whatnot? It's conversations. And I think people who have worked with me and are currently work with me, they will know I have very frank conversations where we get updates. And this is in corporate terms, it's, your appraisals, corny appraisals. But if you truly have conversations about it, the difficult ones, I think things can work very well. And it's hard. Even me as whatever they call me, founder, boss, leader, there are days when I have to go into rooms and have very difficult conversations. But in my line of work, I should be able to do that. The moment I do that, everything becomes very easy to deal with. And people become more aligned or say, you know what, this is no longer for me. I no longer have the capacity or space to be a trainer under Yellow Tree, for example, or a coach. And I must say, Maddie, for the past, because I've become a little bit more courageous in this space to have difficult conversations in the past 2 to 3 years. And every time I challenge myself to have those difficult conversations, I win. I win with love. I win with agreement, and everything is wonderful. And like you said, I don't have to give an example of Yellow Tree with a client maybe a week ago. Just like I didn't even want to go into that call, but I set myself, I manage my state, use the modalities I have. And I say, I'm going to go in there with good intention, with care. We want to finish this project amicably, even though right now we're at a orange red light with a team. And my gosh, those conversations, it was amazing. And then the manager was just like, yes, I want exactly what you want. We want this to finish amicably. So that's how I navigate it. It's conversation and energy. There's no like mathematical formula, but it's hard, Maddie. And to be able to scale this kind of approach, I don't have all the answers, but I do know it works. It works better.
Can you tell us about the modalities you referred to? So you spoke about NLP earlier. What other tools in your box?
I learned a lot about in the past 3 to 4 years about the vagus nerve. The nerve that actually connects, everything in your body, your well-being mentally. So I do a lot of reading on that. To put it simply,
I should talk like that with a very soft voice to activate your vagus nerve.
Or yes, with me that works. With other people that might just freak them out, right? Yeah. So it's understanding which one works for you, which one works for you, which one works for me. And to put it simply, it's really a lot of different tools, such as breathing exercises. And people are like, yeah, I know how to breathe. But I said, do you know the proper way of breathing? For example, when you want more energy and when you want to calm yourself down. Of course, if you want more energy, it's a lot more aggressive, your breathing. And if you want to calm down, it's a lot slower. But we forget these simple modalities during stressful times. And I will share with you, and this is very real, when I go for a pitch or when I'm speaking in front of 200 people or I'm having difficult conversations even, honestly, Mary, I get freaked out. I can't breathe properly. Sometimes I can't sleep. And I keep thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to do that. And one modality, which I share with a lot of our underserved communities, is actually one where you actually take your hand and you rub your chest right here, right? And if you have someone who can help you can rub the back of your back as well and repeat like, I'm supported, I'm loved, I'm safe. I'm supported, I'm loved, I'm safe. And it warms your soul. And you keep repeating that, whether you are alone in a room. And people might think you're absolutely nuts. But honestly, I've done this so many times. And of course, for the more difficult situations, Maddie, I have to do it more. But these words of comforting yourself, saying that you are supported, no matter what, there is one person at least who's going to support you. You are loved and you are safe. That calms you down. That is like anxiety management, right? Which I love to work on in terms of myself and share with other people. Breathing, anxiety management through that. Why does that work? Because as babies, that's how we are comforted. Breathing exercise and jumping exercise. And we do a lot of things that are very experiential, so very physical. A lot of the modalities also come down to exercising and taking care of yourself. In some of the workshops, we get asked to do workshops on stress management, etc. we must always think about not just mind, body, and soul. So managing yourself, but also the spiritual part of it. What are the things that you want to contribute to society? Would you like to pray? Do you like to meditate? I think people take it very lightly these days. These different modalities that can help you overall, from exercise to meditating to speaking lovingly to yourself. And those are really the most powerful tools that we use, Matty. And I think it's just reminding people that they need to use it on a daily basis to get through.
Along the same lines, I think for the simplest thing to do, and something that I've always been surprised, is when people have been told, just like move your neck at the beginning of an improv class, just move your neck. And usually when you tell that to people, they have not moved it since the morning. So they're like, oh my God, I'm so tense. I'm usually like that all the time. So I'll do it a little bit. Do you want to, just so that at least there's one exercise, do you want to calm me down with breathing? How do you do it?
Sure. So it's really like we can do box breathing, for example. Mm-hmm. So where we can, I don't want you to go out of breath. So it's, really taking a deep breath probably for about 4 seconds. And then if you can go all the way, breathe out for 6. So let's do that. Go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. And breathe out 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stop. Breathe in 4 seconds. You do your square. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out 6 seconds. Let's do one more. Breathe in for 4 seconds. 4. And breathe out 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you. And now, can you wake me up?
Actually, it'll be fun. You can do that, but it's more aggressive. It's really to get oxygen into your brain. That's how you do it. And actually, it's movement as well. If we weren't sitting down and chilling, it's really moving up and down and activating this chest part, like it's a gorilla. And it's movement, just as simple as movement.
I did it with you because usually in the past, I remember interviewing people and staying really theoretical. And just the fact of doing it, you experience it right away. And usually, I don't know whether when people listen to it or they see it, they're like thinking, oh, it could be cool, but they don't do it. Hopefully, people just did it now and like, oh, actually doing box breathing works because it does work. Like it calms you down. Yeah, I think that's the vagus nerve has basically longer exhale than inhale, right?
Or whatever works for you, because I think when people start, they really need to figure out the rhythm. How many seconds work for them? That's why I didn't want to do such a long one. If you do yoga, it's a bit intermediate. You can go
15 seconds exhale because you were talking. I was like, I already inhaled, but I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it. And that's what we do in our workshops as well. You've got to do it. It's not just theory. Yeah.
How do people react? Because I was speaking with trainer as well. He's also trying to bring new methodologies for training. And I think the toolbox you talk about would not be foreign to him. I think it's still not very widespread, let's say the least. So how do you, I guess they trust you before you bring those ideas, but how can we make this more mainstream and start events or experiences, even like meetings, in a way where there's this kind of grounding that you just did with me right now?
In this context, I love the word scaling. To really make this work and spread it like fast, it is really walking the talk. And who are the people who have access to this? They're the top leaders. They're the managers. And even for us, because we make it available for underserved communities, it's their families, it's their friends. It's interesting because those who are underserved, they take a lot of our knowledge, really. Those who want to learn, they take it because they know they don't have access to it. So they really take it. I want to show this to my mom. I'm going to show this to my son. And they do it. But what do most privileged people do when they have this knowledge? They just sit on it. They do. It's like, oh, whatever, breathing, who cares? No, you should actually bring it to the workplace. Share it with your family. And it is really telling yourself when stress happens or when we're in this really horrible space at work, in projects, whatever, we're just like, stop, let's breathe. Let's jump around outside. Let's stop this. Let's go outside in the sun and change our state. You know what? It's not wanting more modalities, the sexier modalities. Us as trainers and consultants, and I believe this, going out there to do another 200,000 ringgit, I don't know, TT, so that we come back to Malaysia and sell it. These are so simple. A lot of them are simple. It's just a matter of practicing them and making it available for those who forget. So in this case, your teams, maybe you're mentioning teams, then they just don't know when they should do it. But as leaders, we should allow them to practice. Monday mornings, that 9 to 1 o'clock stretch is probably the most stressful in many organizations because you've come back from a holiday or a break and you have to power through. But what can you do? You can actually have grounding exercises with your team and say, you know what, Monday is not the end of the world. Let's chill. Or the leaders who say, hey, let's have a nice lunch, a team lunch together on a Wednesday, the bump day. I don't think leaders are doing this enough.
Guilty.
Thank you for being so open.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about, I had an argument yesterday with one guy in my team. We an argument. We're like a tense conversation and we could have done that. We didn't. There's a thing about you trying to go fast to the outcome and thinking that sticking to the conversation or the business issue and just trying to resolve it. But if you don't attend to the emotional part of it, even if you work on the business issue, it just gets in the way. So yeah, good reminder.
And actually, I just want to add on, like when you do those appraisals with your teams and they tell you about personal things that are happening, or they even call you up or they message you. So in my case, it's yes, some teams, also coachees who will come to me. And again, your responsibility as a person who already has this wealth of knowledge to share it. Are you okay? Breathe. I've had a conversation in the middle of dinner with people and a friend went so many problems with her kids. And you can already see that she's hyperventilating and she's like, hey, calm down, breathe. I don't have any complex answers for you.
I think the complexity of what you're talking about is embodying it in a way that is not unsolicited feedback. It's not judgmental. It's not, I know, you don't know. And this is the difficult part. And I think that's something you do very well in the being you are because you're quite open and it doesn't feel like you're teaching me. It doesn't feel like there's a dominance or subservience or I'm learning and you're teaching or I'm the coachee and you're the coach. And I think this is a very difficult thing to do because it's easy to cross the boundaries. And when you tell me, okay, calm down or let's breathe, depending on which energy you have, I'm like, F off, depending on who you are telling me this. So I think maybe that's a good question for you is like, how do I become as an HR, as someone who can give this thing without teaching, without giving unsolicited feedback, but in a way that people will want to hear it and they will practice and it will be useful. I'll just answer it from my own point of view based on what I'm hearing. I think I'm shy of implementing these things because I think I've, throughout my life, got very excited about many things and I always wanted to share them, as you said. And I think that backlashed on me many times because like, I don't want to get this from you kind of thing. So I would be shy now to do it. Also, I think there's a judgment from like the kind of practice you bring. I think people might judge you as hippie or like, what the hell, like this is not the context. Also, sometimes it's associated with religion. So there's a lot of stigma associated with those practices. I'll go back to one practice, which is gratitude. And we did this, I think, 2 times in my team, very organically, not like planning or every Friday. Although I would like now to do it every Friday. We don't do it. We did it twice for some random reason. And it was so beautiful. And we ended up doing like the same kind of management update meetings, but through the gratitude mindset or lens. And it was absolutely beautiful. And when I hear you, I'm like, these are mini rituals you can do and it will change completely the way the meeting goes because of this grounding or this kind of energy shifting that you do. So I'm trying to commit right now to do more of this because I know, as you say, I sit on it. So I've been sitting on a lot of those things. So I'll try to implement in the next 2 days.
Okay.
So how do you do it? Not to be a pain to everyone else.
First of all, I would actually look at myself first. As a trainer as well, I always say you either loved, people either dislike you in a room. And I think we have to, as leaders, we have to understand that we're not here to please everybody. As long as our intention is real. And what do I mean by real is, look, I have this knowledge. I genuinely want to help you with it. That's one. intention and knowing that you're not going to please everyone. And number 3, which I have to remember all the time when I'm a coach, etc., or even a trainer with 30 people, 50 people in a room, is that you are not my responsibility. If my intention is there to assist you, and if you think I'd say examples to assist you is woo-woo, or is too spiritual, or too corny, or idiotic, then that's fine as well, right? It's really okay. And that's how I navigate those situations. I've had in rooms where I had a feedback actually when we did, it was just a relaxing close to the workshop where we closed our eyes. It was some relaxing music with just some words to help people calm. And I had feedback that said that you shouldn't be doing meditation and religious things. And that was not my intention at all. But you know what I like from that comment is like, why are you so triggered? And that's the learning. I actually appreciate those kind of reactions because people can look at themselves as like, hey, I'm just giving you some very innocent solutions. But if you're triggered by something that is simple and in good faith, then you should look at yourself.
This was live or it was in asynchronous feedback, which is in the session?
It was synchronous. It was actually feedback, written feedback. So it wasn't
forward. You could have addressed it in the room, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's to understand that and you to be honest with yourself to say that I would really love it. I would love to share this knowledge with you. At the end of the day, Maddie, a lot of the ones, and I would say I have a 80% hit rate with people when it comes to this, is they must genuinely know that I really care about them. Now, whether I met you 2 hours ago, whether I know you for 3 years or 10 years, rapport can actually be built even within the first 1 hour or 2 hours, even 30 minutes. And how do we do that is actually working on yourself and walking into rooms to really show that, you know what, I do care about you. Maybe not as deeply if I've known you 3 years or 5 years, but I do. If you drop here, I will try to help you. And I think the moment people see that, they will be very open, even more open to hearing your ideas on how to better themselves. Again, it's all about being genuine.
And so do you preempt objections as you go into the room and you plan to do those things and you explain why you're doing it? Or you just go do it in a smooth way, with love, with good intentions, and then it just works? So do you do this preempting and explaining before you do it or not?
It's interesting. I think you need to, so again, our job is to know this, is to read the room, to understand the type of individuals you're dealing with. So I've had instances when I'm doing things like this, in particular for financial organizations or pharmaceutical organizations. They are very, very, blue, whatever you want to call it, blue. You are, AD, which is auditory digital. You're very process oriented. So most people who have predisposition to numbers and process would be less likely to be taking all these sort of practices openly. They'd be like, I don't need this stuff. Why should I? And I've been in rooms where you've got 30% of people who thought, this is just rubbish. It is rubbish. And it's like, it's okay if you think it's rubbish. But like you said, I have to start the workshop, or at least the first 2 to 3 hours, looking at theory, giving examples, case studies, science, the science behind it, because they are technical people. Once you go through that, the next thing is connecting with them, building rapport, either during lunch or in between the exercises, and then eventually bringing out stories that matter to them. I've had in a room before where you've got a CEO, hardcore, and then by 2 p.m. after lunch, they're revealing a lot of the challenges they have at home with their parents. And then when you realize and you get to that point where you've hit that emotion, so again, consumer insights, right? When you hit that emotion and why this matters to you, you can get through. And yes, I've had some stubborn people in the room, but eventually I wouldn't say give in, they open up a bit more than they did before the workshop started. Yeah. It's a process. It's understanding how to go through that process.
Thank you for sharing. Underserved communities, what can we learn from them and from the work you do with them in the broader ecosystem? I think you said something already. You gave the insight that when you give someone something to someone who has less, they will treat it with more care and more interest than people who have been bombarded with luxurious lifestyle where they have all the insights and all the tools. So you shared that insight, which I think is great. Any other things we can learn from them and from the work you do with them?
One thing we can learn from them, and I think the world needs a little bit more of this, is patience. Patience is really not in the vocabulary of most corporate individuals and entities. I mean, we had timelines, we had deadlines. It's, go, learn fast and keep going. And why I say patience from the underserved communities is that everyone has a story, everyone has a journey. And when we don't respect that journey, you cannot achieve a lot of great things. You just can't. Basically, we're talking about forcing someone to do something they don't really want to. Or are we going to take them through a journey that's meaningful for them? So again, understanding their vision of what life they want, and then them genuinely wanting to go on this journey with you of success. So it's patience in terms of understanding them. And I remember going into a project once where I thought, oh, it's going to last about 2 months. We should be in and out. It's fine. We're going into the second year of the project. And that corporate Alleena would be like, what on earth? This is rubbish. No. But because of the values we have at Yellow Tree, it's all about, no, we're going to walk with them. If you really, truly want to walk with them, you walk with them. They function very differently, especially the Orang Asal or indigenous communities. They function very differently. Their vision of success is very different. When challenges hit their communities, their personal lives, things stop, literally stop. You come back with your knowledge, you come back with whatever it is you want to help us, but it stops right here. And then we'll meet again in the next 3 or 6 months. That's unheard of in our world. You got issues? You got problems? No, you carry on. I'm not saying that corporate world has to do that, but isn't that great to learn something about that? Patience. Patience is one thing that I learned from them. Seeing the bright side of things when things are actually really dark for them. And I don't think the privileged understand this concept because it's always running after things. And I've seen that happen. Actually, I see it happen all the time with underserved communities and just appreciating life, but also being extraordinarily innovative with whatever life hands to them. And I truly believe they're the best marketeers and the best brand people because they have to make do with what they've got. And actually going into this business, having that social edge, working with social enterprises, NGOs, underserved communities, I have become a lot more innovative as well. Not in the corporate sense, but in the agility sense. We talk about agile, all these things, right? I don't think everyone in the corporate world is that agile as the underserved communities. They can move like so fast. It's amazing. So patience, agility, making things work with whatever little you have.
Love it. What is the key insight that drives your coaching? How do you coach?
Wow. How do I coach? I have a different approach to coaching. I do believe that the coach and the coachee, they have to have alignment. For me, how do I coach? I make sure that I have capacity for coaching. I think the word coach is overused. I think there are too many coaches out there. Too many coaches who don't look at themselves. Right? I'm also guilty of this. At the beginning, I wanted to do a lot of coaching when in fact I didn't have the capacity. So what do I mean by capacity is energy. Not just mental capacity, like, oh, all the theory I'm going to give to you, because that's what happens. A lot of theory, but it's not about theory. It's about having capacity, like this conversation that we're having. I have the capacity to genuinely give all this information with you, having this dialogue with you. And coaching, imagine having multiple sessions in a day and then tomorrow and the next day and having to deal with your personal stuff.
Yeah.
How do I coach?
Present.
And fully present. I think fully present is one, but do we have that? Enough? Are you putting enough good things in you so that you can push out the great things to your coachee? Because I think moving forward, the coaching industry or space, it is all about that. How can I feed you with energy so that you can also be better? Because that's what's inspiring. It's not about showing up empty. It's not showing up and just taking the amount of money per hour. I'm very mindful of that because we've also learned the hard way where you don't see performance in the coachee because the coach themselves haven't realized that they need to stop because we're human beings. We will go through really nasty things and we won't have the capacity. And it's that coachee, that person has to say, no, stop. I can't coach anymore. I need like a 6-month break. So how do I coach? It's actually knowing myself first versus sharing with you, Matty, that, oh, this is how I coach. This is the theory that I do. It's sharing energy, what I have.
Okay. If you were to summarize your life to one question, what would it be?
How would you take the next step when you are faced with adversity? I'm asking that because it can be addressed in a very large scale, strategic scale, and it could also be scaled down to a moment if I walked outside and someone ticks me off and I'm about to punch their face in, how do I move to the next step? Because honestly, Maddie, where I am right now, it's that split second. How do I move forward? How do I move forward? How do I move? Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I do really well.
So the question is, you're in adversity, what's the next step? And it can be a big step or it can be the tiny step of breathe, and that connects to the underserved communities as well. One thing that is interesting that we didn't talk about is your hotelier background. Like, how does it connect to all of the rest, and how does it serve the way you do? But I guess the service is there from the beginning, from the hotelier. And why do you want to serve? Like, the cooking thing I can understand, but why this being at service of people when everyone wants to be served? Why do you want to serve?
Ooh, gosh. In times of darkness or when you have no more capacity, people be like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I cannot go have this next meeting. I cannot. So don't give me any more. So serve me. I believe, and I've had coaches, and a coach in particular who talks about bringing in light when there's darkness, is I don't know if it works for everyone, but when I'm at my top, I just cannot deal with anything anymore. My cup is full. It's beyond full. When I serve someone in any form, whether it's to get up and help someone, a coachee, it's whether it is to serve someone food, to cook someone food, to do anything, to give a smile, that burden is lightened. It becomes so light for me. So a lot of people think when it's too much, you don't do anything. Stay still until that cup becomes manageable. But when you put more good things through the act of service, at least for me, it is magical. It works. It works every time, Maddie. Every time.
Okay. So a good reminder for me. Even if it's a hard day and there's too much, who am I serving in the next 30 minutes? Love it. It gives you energy. It also refocuses on something bigger than just your immediate needs. Is there such thing as high performance in underserved communities?
Oh, I haven't heard that word in a while. No, I don't think there is. It's weird. Like if you say performer, it's like, huh? What do you mean? Because through most of my interaction with underserved communities, it is moving together as a team, a family, a unit. It is doing it together. If we perform, it's not about performance. It's about going to the next step together, supporting each other. Yes, I know there's going to be some corporate people. Oh, this rubbish. No, but it is. That's how they perform. That's how they build their communities. That's how they become happy, right? Doing things together. I get to experience that right now, Maddie. So I call my partners, all the people that I work with in the social enterprise scene, and I remind them all the time. I'm like, I love being here. Like after this, if I'm down or I need to, I just contact them and they're wonderful. That's how we perform. We're happy together, doing things together, figuring things out together. And whenever we need each other, we call each other. Versus the kind of like, yes, that's my line and I'm just going to beat everyone at it, which is okay, which is necessary in the world today. Competitiveness is critical, but I don't think that it really exists in this concept of performance in underserved communities.
You still get to an outcome. You still manage to deliver value.
Absolutely.
It's just, you call it in a different way. You call it through teamwork and collaboration and togetherness that you end up doing the outcome. Is it togetherness before outcome, or is it outcome before togetherness?
It's togetherness first, and then the outcome comes. And then you deal with the outcome, whether it's negative or positive, you deal with it. I think it's just, it's a mesh and it's an interrelated. Yeah.
Okay. What is the most exciting innovation you've seen in L&D, in coaching, in your work with underserved communities in the last few months, let's say? What is something you think, wow, that's really cool, something innovative?
Honestly, I haven't seen one yet. Because I think sometimes our definition of innovation is coming up with something more complex or frameworks that are more complex, this modality that's more complex or more expensive. I haven't seen it. If you were to really press me for answers, if it's actually, I think in the space of social media, at least in those areas where it's a lot more, I would say, relevant and safe, or I say that because there's so much information out there. I find it innovative when a lot of this knowledge that we were talking about for the past hour or so is broken down in layman terms or laywoman terms and shared with the public through TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, because that's my definition of innovation, making it a lot more simple for people to have access to so that they can practice it. Of course, we have to be mindful on what kind of information, but if I were to really answer you, it's actually the actors on social media who make it accessible. And they don't necessarily need to call themselves coach or trainer or consultant. I think that's what I've seen work well.
I love it. And maybe one last question for you. For the people who are, let's say they just started in HR, so they take care of organizations, they take care of populations of people. You have loads of experience on the marketing side, on the service side, on the human motivation side. What is one piece of advice you would give them as they grow through their career, as they elevate themselves from like entry level, maybe it's admin, maybe it's just small scope? How do you help them grow as individuals and also at the service of their organizations?
One piece of advice is continuously work on yourself, because there's no way you can put your ideas out there, give your point of view, power through all this complexity and issues we have in the world today without working on yourself. There's just no way, because somewhere along the line or down the road, you will break down. When you do, it's not the end of the world. You will have tools to help you. Not just that, pushing through your ideas through people who don't believe in it, through people who say HR is just another department that doesn't have any value. How do you respond to that? The only way you can respond to that is if you know yourself and you can deal with those kind of comments, etc. Is know yourself and work on yourself, Maddie.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.